the Dog Witch podcast, where we help you create happy, healthy, and relaxed dogs.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Dog Witch podcast. I am Lisa McCabe, your host, and today I am here to chat to you about all things cooked versus raw dog food for dogs. Which is best? It is a fierce debate, and at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to personal choice, really. When it comes to dog nutrition, few topics spark this much debate, whether it's cooked versus raw dog food. You know, spend 5 minutes with any kind of canine health group, and you'll quickly discover passionate people on either sides of the opinion. And some owners swear by raw feeding their dogs, whilst others feel safer and more comfortable preparing fresh cooked meals for their dogs instead. And the truth is that neither of them are perfect. Every dog is different and every diet is different, and what works for one dog might not necessarily work for another dog. I mean, I had two older dogs with Ziggy and Zane, and they ate the majority of the same foods, but each bowl had to be tweaked to suit their certain needs. So there's no kind of one size fits all when it comes to nutrition. So this is what I'm going to chat to you about today, just the pros and cons of raw feeding and cooked homemade dog food, so that you can make a more informed and confident choice when it comes to your dog's health and well-being. So, cooked versus raw dog food is a serious debate. That supporters of raw feeding often describe it as a more natural way to feed your dogs. You know, raw diets are typically made of raw meat, bones, organs, small amounts of fruits and vegetables, you know, like aiming to, I suppose, mimic what dogs would have eaten, you know, back in the day before they became domesticated, you know, what their ancestors would have eaten. And most people on this side of the debate, you know, feel that it's a more kind of like species appropriate approach to canine nutrition. You know, and that's kind of, you know, the way that they feel, you know, and the benefits of this is that, you know, like raw food definitely does have, you know, like naturally occurring vitamins that aren't maybe like, you know, disappearing through the cooking process. There, you know, there's minerals and enzymes there, you know, that are all kind of held practically within this raw food that the dogs are getting straight from source, rather than, you know, them maybe being diluted when it's being cooked. Many believe that dogs have shinier coats and healthier skin and reduced chin, you know, after they've kind of switched to a raw food diet. And obviously there's the you know, the debate of whether or not it's good for dogs teeth as well. You know, there's a good dental support there, because chewing, like, you know, raw meaty bones can help reduce plaque and build up, support healthier teeth and gums. But obviously, you know, there does kind of come that kind of, oh, about maybe dogs eating raw bones, you know, can they get stuck in their gullet, can they cause issues? So it's always best to be careful, you know, and feed appropriately. You know, and there are some potential risks that come with a raw food diet. Um, you know, things that should be considered: bacterial contamination. So raw meat can carry harmful bacteria such as, you know, like salmonella, E. coli, and this doesn't just pose the risk to the dogs, but also to the humans who are preparing the food for the dogs. You know, so you want to kind of be mindful of children, elderly family members, you know, like with weakened immune systems and things like that. So, yeah, it's something that you just want to be mindful of if you are looking at the raw food way of feeding your dog. And, you know, there can be some nutritional imbalances when it comes to homemade, like, raw food diets. You know, they might not be properly formulated, they might lead to deficiencies, you know, like you could have excess levels of some nutrients, and this then could cause issues for your dogs over time. um, and as I said, you know, like raw food diet isn't isn't suitable for every dog. Dogs who maybe have like sensitive digestion, immune issues, or certain medical conditions, they might struggle with raw feeding and might be better, on like kind of gently home cooked meals. So when it comes to this kind of debate, fresh dog food, fresh cooked dog food when it's done properly can be incredibly nourishing and supportive for your dog's health. Like a balanced diet allows you to use whole fresh foods, whilst reducing the associated risks of like raw feeding. And for many dogs, they feel that home cooked meals are easier to digest and a bit gentler on their bodies. So, what are the benefits of home cooked food for dogs? Well, you reduce that risk of the harmful bacteria for a start. When food's kind of cooking off, all this bacteria has the potential to be destroyed, making it a bit of a safer option for your dog and for you when you're handling the food as well. Easier digestion as well is another benefit of like home cooked food for dogs. Some senior dogs and puppies, or those maybe like sensitive tummies, those maybe recovering from illness, they can tolerate home cooked food much better than they would be able to tolerate like a raw foods diet. And with a kind of home cooked food, you have more flexibility and more control. Preparing your dog's meal at home gives you, a greater control over the ingredients and the protein sources that you use. You're not using unnecessary fillers or preservatives, anything found, like in commercially made dog food. There's no artificial additives or flavours or any kind of like ultra processed ingredients in there. You can be safe in the knowledge that you know exactly what is going into your dog's bowl. The downsides of cooking food for your dog at home is it takes time and preparation. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, we're all busy. But for me, like I kind of batch cook my dog's meals once a week. Sometimes, if I've made too much, I can put it into the freezer and bring it back out again. And it does take a wee bit of planning, it takes some education, it takes a bit of consistency. So, like some nutrients can be reduced during cooking, so it's just to be mindful of that. Making sure that you're giving your dog the right amount of vitamins and minerals and things. Just to make sure that you're covering the whole spectrum and giving your dog exactly what they need. So, when it comes to this debate of raw versus food, here at the Dog Witch, personally, I believe the healthiest is a most fresh, balanced diet for your dog. I love to home cook for my dog personally, but if you choose to raw feed for your dog, that is absolutely fine. As I said before, every dog is completely different, but as long as you're giving your dog real nourishing ingredients that are full of like lean proteins to support their muscles and their vitality, whether it's complex carbohydrates for like energy and digestive health, or fresh fruits and veggies, just to kind of get in the fibre and the antioxidants and all these wee macronutrients that your dog's body needs to keep them fit and healthy. But for me, like safety must always come first. I absolutely believe in feeding dogs as naturally as possible, but I also believe in combining nature with common sense and modern nutritional kind of needs for our dogs. So whilst raw food might be natural, it doesn't automatically mean safe. Fresh cooked diet, gives dogs, I suppose, the kind of best of both worlds. You can get your natural nutrition, but you're reducing the harm of bacteria and digestive stress. And when done properly, home cooked food can be deeply nourishing. It can also be really empowering. And, to come back to my dog witchy ways, definitely a little bit of magic in there. Like if food is cooked with love and time and preparation, then that's all going to go into your dog's body. Your dog is going to get that soul, your love and your energy from that food as well. So, just coming into the final thoughts on the kind of cooked versus raw debate, whether you're curious about raw feeding your dog, or you're fully committed to doing like the home cooked, or you're maybe a wee bit somewhere in between. The important thing is to be intentional about what goes into your dog's bowl. You know, really look at the ingredients and give them the best that you possibly can. Understand your dog's nutritional needs. Choose quality ingredients and make informed decisions. So speak to someone like me, speak to your vet, you know, someone who's in the know, someone who is an expert on what they're talking about, because what your dogs eats can have a huge impact on their overall health and well-being. There's no perfect diet that fits every dog. The goal is finding the approach that works well for your dog and to help them thrive. And if you'd like a little bit of support with that and getting to know it, you can speak to me about the Happy Dog Reset. I absolutely am so passionate about dog nutrition. It is one of my favourite things to cover when I do Happy Dog Resets. I love kind of getting into the nitty gritty and helping owners with that so that they can understand exactly what their dog needs for their health and well-being. So you can find the Happy Dog Reset on the Dog Witch website, which is thedogwitch.co.uk, and if you just click on the Happy Dog Reset, you can also do the Happy Dog quiz as well, which will tell you which of your pillars might be misaligned. And obviously if it's nutrition, please get in touch. There's also a blog about this on the website as well, where you can find a wee bit more information on there. But if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me via email. It's lisa@thedogwitch.co.uk. But yeah, I would absolutely love to help you with your dog nutritional choices, whether you're looking at raw feeding, whether you're looking at giving your dog a traditional food that you buy from the shop, or whether you are looking to cook for your dog. There is absolutely no judgment when it comes to the Happy Dog Reset, because everybody's circumstances are different. So I just love to help you and your dog live the best life possible. So take care, and I will see you on the next podcast. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of the Dog Witch podcast. Don't forget to tune in to our next episode soon.